Hello, my name is Lou. This is Katie,
Hey.
and you're listening to Files from the Other Side. This week, we're opening the files on
Ghost armies.
Ghost Armies.
Mm,
What have you
mm,
got for
mm.
me?
Oh man, do I have some stories for you? I mean, probably the most familiar to us in the US, the Night Marchers of Oahu. They're the vanguard of sacred kings, like chiefs or chiefesses. The Night Marchers or spirit ranks are also kind of called spirit ranks too. They come out on nights honoring like Kane, Ku, Lono, Knights of Kanaloa. And they're like normal size and they like dress up in like they're war garb basically, like they're like ready to go to battle and stuff like that. They have like weapons and sometimes they have drums or conchs that they're blowing to announce their march.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean it depends on like the king or chief or chiefess that they're honoring too. Like it'll vary. Like the conduct of the march depends on who they're honoring, and so does their like the placement, like whoever they're honoring's placement within the march changes depending on whoever it is. Like sometimes, like if a chief, you're not supposed to look upon the face of that he leads, and you can only look at his back. If you're not supposed to look at his back, then he brings up the rear of the vanguard. If you're not supposed to look at the chiefess at all, she's like going to be in the middle of the night marchers.
That's so interesting. Wait, so this is like, are you saying it's like what happens when the ghosts appear, or is this like a cultural practice?
This is like they're ghosts. It's a ghost army. It's
So
like
like the ghost army changes, is what you're saying?
yeah, the ghost army like changes it like depending on who is being honored. Like by the fucking ghost army that is like
I've never
marching.
heard of anything like that
You've never
before.
heard of the night marchers?
I've never.
Ames has
Okay,
been
no, I
telling
don't
us
think.
about. Ames has been telling me about them for 10 years at least. Like she was like talks about like the fucking like she's. I don't remember. I forgot to ask her before this. Like she's heard stories about this. I don't remember if she's actually ever been. I think it's the highway where Pele comes that she's like seeing fucked up shit. It's not. She hasn't seen the night marchers, but she heard about them and like they're not supposed to like touch the, according to the myth, they're suspended in air, like they like don't actually touch the ground, but they like it's like this crazy ghost army, yeah, that changes and they like come out on different nights.
So what you're saying is like, okay, so not only do, depending on the chief or chiefess that they are honoring in the march, but also you said that they were different places. So
They go to okay, so they go to ancient Hawaiian battle sites and other sacred places. Yeah, so they go to different places throughout Oahu.
that is wild.
Yeah.
I need I need to know more. Sorry, this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, dude, the night marchers are sick. Yeah, they you like they're terrifying. You're like you don't want to be around when they see them though, because they'll like fuck you
No,
up. Like
it's
they'll
reminding me of the Lord of the Rings, like that when they go onto
the
that.
Army of the Dead.
Yes, it was scary
Yeah.
and weird because they were there for like that one particular battle, and then they weren't there for like the end battle, right? So like they were like they had fulfilled their oath.
Slightly different because
Slightly different, but like
they were cursed.
But like I would say that like if I were to walk up to a ghost army, I would not be doing anything less than peeing my pants.
Yeah. No, there is, what was it? Looking on in defiance will cause violent death. If you lie face down on the ground in proper deference, you may be spared. You may be spared. You might not be though. And but the only way you know you will be spared is if you have an ancestor in the procession that recognizes you, because then they'll call out mine. They'll like call out
Wow.
Nua. Is that how you say it in Hawaii? They call out mine, and then like you're protected.
Wow. I am flabbergasted. Utterly shooketh in my boots.
No, it's pretty sick. It's pretty terrifying. Again, because they'll have drums and like fucking they'll like be blowing the conchs and stuff. People who live near there's like some places I actually forgot to write down some of the locations, but I remember seeing that Manoa Falls was one of the places that they frequent, and Ames and I went to Manoa Falls on this trip
Wow.
recently. It's beautiful. Very beautiful, very muddy. Waterfall, pretty. Not
So
the kind you could get into.
what's so? What are some? Do you have stories about people who have encountered these things?
You know, that would have been so awesome if I'd looked that up.
Because I was just saying, because Amy, you said Amy.
Yeah.
Has Amy's family experienced anything?
Not from the night marchers. Like she's told me about them before in like passing and stuff like that, but her like real experience like with ghosts is like there's this highway that you're not supposed to bring pork down or else Pele will get you. And she's like seen like she was driving down the highway. I don't think they had pork on them, but they were driving down this highway where Pele is known to like frequent. And they seen like an old woman in all white in the middle of the fucking highway.
Wow. So like super haunted vibes anyways.
Super haunted vibes anyways. I mean, it's an island. They don't have... Wait, do we believe that ghosts can cross water or not? Because like I've heard...
Ghosts can do anything in water in my opinion.
That's what... Okay.
I think it's like a... Like in our last episode, it's like a conduit. Like, I bet you they could travel. Yeah, for sure.
Word. Because like I've heard that they can't travel over water and like...
I don't believe that. Water is so spiritual.
Water is life.
Yes. Water is also, I don't know, just it represents the unconscious, and for me, like a lot of like it's like across the veil. Like I don't know where, but
across it. Across the veil. Because the other army that I have to talk about, there are records of people seeing it. Turkish and armies and like the Nazis like tried to like shoot at the Doomen of Crete from Franco Castello. The Drusolites is how it's spelled. I am literally learning Greek. You would think that I could attempt to even say it correctly.
I think languages are hard.
Languages. Thank you. Languages are hard. So, they are like soldiers who died in the Battle of Franco Castello on May 17th, 1828. And they're like seen coming from the mountains. Where is it? I wrote it down. The Hana Lambos. Agios, like it's the mountain range right behind, or the mountains right behind. And they like advanced towards the fort of Franco Castello it's on the southern, so it's probably the Libyan Sea right there. And they're called the Doomen because of like the fog, like they're supposed to come out during the morning fog and stuff like that, and they look like misty and like they're made of fog, but they're real enough looking that like you could see them allegedly visible from 1,000 meters. And an 1890 transient Turkish army mistook them for rebels and fled, and supposedly Nazis tried to open fire on them when they were trying to take Greece.
Is there any reason why they're like appearing?
They come out during the anniversary of the battle where they died in so it's May 17th.
So when these other armies encountered them, it was an anniversary date?
Yeah. Well, I've heard that it's not also. Like, I don't know. I'm going with it. It's an anniversary day because it's what I originally heard, but I've also read that it's just, like, certain times of day, like when the dew is out. But, yeah.
I feel like it might be that these other cases were special circumstances, or I don't know, because, like, it makes me think about, like, how war itself might be a special circumstance.
Yeah.
Battles.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, right?
For sure.
Like, even if it wasn't the date of the anniversary, they were like, some fuck shit's going on.
That's a really
good.
Scare
the pants out of some modern soldiers because we died.
Yeah.
Doing this, and we shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Yeah, like the energy of like there being battles, or like, because the Greeks hate being dominated. Like they're like, fuck that noise. Like, so anytime anybody's trying to like take over them, they're like, fuck that noise. So like that kind of energy stays over centuries. So like when that energy is like being felt in the land, maybe they come back. Maybe it's not an anniversary like the date, but I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I think that these particular things that you have brought to the table are so fascinating. um, I don't even know what to say about it almost because it's so interesting. It's like, I'm going to have to digest that. Because I would say, like, you're like maybe the cases in Oahu are that you would maybe just encounter it because Oahu's small.
Oh yeah,
and
they come out for like a fair amount. Like they come out to honor gods and stuff like that. Like
yeah, and I think that like I think especially Hawaii is like sacred land. Like I mean everywhere is sacred land, but like considering the U.S. territorialness over the place, right? Like it should be in indigenous hands to be taken care of, right? Like, and I think like yeah, so
to say the least.
To say the least.
Yeah.
I have some Civil War stuff for you. Do you mind if I give you some tidbits from the Civil War?
I'm an old white man. Of course I want some Civil War shit up in my life.
Yeah, and you know, I don't even know what to say about this. I'm not going to say anything about the Civil War. If you don't know what the Civil War was, just kidding. The Civil War, I think, is just like, it's fascinating to a subgroup of people, for sure. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is called Devil's Den, and it was a place in Gettysburg. Long before Gettysburg ever happened, it was named the Devil's Den anyways. So it's just a cool rock formation somewhere in Gettysburg. Like where the battle happened, I guess. I don't know. Battle of Gettysburg is confusing to me because I don't know how long it lasted. I didn't look that up. But it's this particular place was in July of 1863. Confederate soldiers used the geographic location of the Cool Rock Formation to their advantage to trap and fire on Union soldiers in a bloody battle where 2,600 soldiers died between both sides. So that's like the context of what happened in the battle. I don't know that that's like different because I'm going to talk about the Battle of Gettysburg again in my next thing, but like I don't know when these two things happened in relation to each other.
The battle took place over 3 days, July 1st through the 3rd.
Okay, so I should have looked up when Jenny Wade was shot, but anyways.
Okay.
And my cats have been hellions. I apologize to podcast listeners.
Literally was just like, was that a baby?
No, it's my cat. He was up on the desk. I was trying to swat him away. He was trying to mess with the camera while you were talking. I was like, this is the cat mom life, everyone.
Okay. July 3rd, 1863 is when she died. She died on the last day of battle.
Okay. So Devil's Den, I guess I gather that it was when the Confederates just attacked the Union soldiers, and the soldiers so what happened, like, the sort of like after the battle, when there was all these like bodies across Devil's Den and like the area around there, a couple days like following, these soldiers who were tending to the dead, like doing what they needed to do after the war, after the battle, doing whatever soldiers do, they were having supernatural occurrences at this place. They were seeing ghost apparitions of the soldiers laying dead on the field, which only solidifies and continues to perpetuate the supernatural qualities of Devil's Den, right? Because it wouldn't have been named Devil's Den even before Gettysburg if there wasn't some supernatural quality to it. Now, there is no verifiable resource about it being like an indigenous Native American like holy or unholy site, I guess I should say. Like, I don't know where Devil's Den comes from. I don't want to say it's like, because a lot of online sources are saying like it has to do with like Native American culture. It's like I don't know how to, like, I wouldn't know where to verify that, and it was just speculation on these other Civil War websites. So I was like, even if like maybe it's just a bad luck place, like maybe like it could have been anyone who named it that, and if we don't have
a Christian that named it that for sure.
Well, it feels like it for sure, and you know, and even if it was a Christian who named it, like the context of like the battles for colonial settler like places in the U.S., like I feel like it has nothing, it has less to do with like Native Americans calling it like a bad place than it has to do with like the white settler associations of the devil in the bad place and like all this other stuff, right? Like I, again, not verifiable. There's no like I can't find that information. If somebody has it, send it my way and I will recorrect. But I think it's, for me, I feel like the Devil's Den, even just with the earth, they maybe just have some earth magic to it, right? Like the rocks themselves can like store some sort of memory of the battle, especially if it's so emotional and so laborious and like a battle is, right? Like it can store some sort of information. What's interesting is that I think paranormal investigators can go there and investigate around there, but what they're investigating essentially is the dead soldiers. I don't think that they're trying to get to the source of the Devil's Den, and I don't think that's would be fruitful. But and more of my cat sounds. I'm so sorry. I'm
like, why do you think it wouldn't be fruitful?
Because I don't think you could get. I don't think there'd be anything to sort of fact check against. And then you'd just be associating it with the devil itself, and I don't think that's something you would want to like necessarily get into. Yeah. No, that's for me
fair. I don't want to. I mean, I don't think the devil's real. But
you'd be harnessing the energy of the archetype.
Yeah, exactly. I think. Which would bring something that I don't want to deal with. You're correct.
No, yeah. I mean, there was already a battle there. Like the Confederate soldiers and Union soldiers slaughtered each other 2,600 deep. I'm not trying to engage in, honestly, like we said in the last episode about like insane asylums, there are certain things I want to do and don't want to do.
Yeah,
I don't know how much I need to feel like I need to go to Washington D.C. or Gettysburg, wherever this is. In Washington D.C.
No, it's in Pennsylvania.
I don't need to go to Pennsylvania, somewhere I've never been and never have history over, to like investigate something that I don't.
I've been to Pennsylvania.
I'm not even close to. Like, I don't have ancestors who were in this battle. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense for me. And I guess it would only make sense if you were really into the Civil War, right?
Yeah, I'm not. An old white man that I am, I'm not into the Civil War enough. I'm more into World War II. I mean, I'm into the Civil War plenty. What?
Yeah, I said I guess same.
Yeah,
the World War II thing. Yeah,
but yeah, way more fascinated by World War II.
Okay, so the second thing about the Civil War, though, is the only civilian casualty in the Battle of Gettysburg, which was apparently 3 days, was a woman named Jenny Wade, who is said to haunt the Jenny Wade house to this day. So Jenny Wade was shot in July of 1863 while making biscuit dough for Union soldiers. And it's really sad because she had a photo of her friend in her pocket, and his name was Jack Kelly, and Jack Kelly died 9 days later in the Battle of Winchester. Oh. They were childhood friends, never engaged, maybe lovers. There's a speculation here that there's like a lovers situation, really sad, perilous story about lovers.
I would only carry around the picture of a man that I was in love with. Personally,
yeah, they just like weren't married and they never had kids together. So I think it was a situation where they were just too young.
20. Yeah,
they were too young. He went to war and they couldn't do anything about it. She had this sister, Georgia. She was pregnant and engaged to another soldier who was off at war, but he wasn't in Gettysburg. So they moved in together, Jenny, Georgia, and the mom and the baby. And they moved into 548 Baltimore Street, and it later becomes known as the Jenny Wade house because Jenny Wade is shot there by the soldiers, and to this day it's rumored to be haunted of her apparitions. They've got an EVP. It's a hotbed for paranormal enthusiasts because I think usually they just say that you can get something from her. She seems like a very friendly spirit. Like she's just like kind of like very willing to appear for people.
She literally, when I looked her up, said public figure as her description under Wikipedia. Like she, as a ghost, has become a public figure, which, yeah, she's like about it. She's like, I get my 15 minutes of fame now, bitch.
I think what's cool about all these stories, about ghosts, ghost armies, war, stuff like that, is that, I don't know, I don't want to say it's like a special case, But it is, I want to also say that, like, I guess I'm just speculating again, that war might be a special case in which it is so tragic that it leaves a print.
Yeah. So much like that much violence.
And hate for the other side.
Yeah. Anger sticks around. Like, there's a lot of residue of anger, you know, like anger and hate, like those things, like energetically, like they get, I mean, they're stagnant energies, right? Like,
you're stuck.
Yeah.
Until you figure out a way to be peaceful again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have a lot of anger issues myself, and I think
same.
Like,
oh, girl, same.
I guess that I understand, like, why it would be a stuckness or a stagnant feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah, because, like, there's, I mean, maybe stagnant's not it's not wrong, but there's also, like, there are ways to use your anger, like, in constructive, motivational ways. Like, it is a thing. Like, as somebody who has serious rage problems, too. Like, I don't know. I have anger issues. And, like, I said stagnant because I get stuck in rage and anger.
Yeah.
And have trouble letting go.
Yeah.
And, like, I might not be mean or violent about it, but I'm also not calm.
And I
used to be mean and violent about it. Sorry.
Well, and I don't think anyone's, like, not incapable of being mean or violent. Like, I think everyone is capable. And certain people get pushed to the point of being mean and violent. Like, it's just that war to me doesn't seem like a good excuse. Like, it's rooted in, like we have touched on before, like colonial settlerism. It's the empire establishing itself in places that it has no business being. Yet here we are, all these years later from the Civil War, all these years later. But, like, the thing about it, what's always fascinating to me about war is that it's like, you hear about it a lot as, like, a pinnacle of history. Like, it like, there's, like, all this, like, stuff and then war. And then there's, like, all this stuff and then war. And it's like, why are we talking about history as if... I think really what it is for me is I think people realize how end of the world-ish it is, how apocalyptic it is. It's like, if we do not get control over our situation here, the potentiality at this time and day and age is horrific. I mean, it is horrific what we're watching coming out of Palestine.
Yeah. What
we're watching coming out of the Sudan and Congo. Like, and I hate to say, but Ukraine as well. Like, and all of it is.
Oh my God,
like,
I completely forgot about
well, I just feel like that's the one that people really know and recognize, like, over, like, the people don't want to talk about Palestine. People would, like, but people always, like, they always were talking about Ukraine when, like, that was like sensationalized.
Yeah.
So listen, because we have to move on into our next conversation topic, which is, like, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, okay, so I posed the question, which was, speaking of war, especially the context of, like, our Americanness, what are your thoughts on spiritual warfare, modern warfare, incoming warfare for maybe our country? How is spiritual warfare affecting, generally speaking?
Yeah, it fucks your energy up. T to B is my first line. I mean, like that's, like, where, like, my mind went. I was just like, I mean, it's the most like I'm not even gonna, like, let's set aside when people are actually straight up persecuted for their religion. I'm gonna crack that nut in a second.
Okay.
How is warfare spiritually affecting? Like, I mean, like, literally not feeling safe fucks with your root chakra. Like, you will not, like, it fucks with your sense of safety, and that completely will throw your whole being out of whack. Like, not feeling safe in your own home and country, like,
yeah,
it's fucked. Like, you can't get anything, like, done. Like, you'll be all over the place. There's a lot of fear and anxiety. And, like, that's just, like, literally just, like, the only parts of the logistics of growing up in a war zone that I can really, really guess at, because yo girl did not grow up in a fucking war zone.
No.
but like, and then there's, you know, and then there's, you can be persecuted for the religion that you are. Like, you can be, I mean, having,
You can be persecuted for any marginalization, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, but you
Because,
can
like,
even be marginalized and still be persecuted for your religion. Like,
right. Like, I'm just thinking, like, you could, even
you
after
usually
religion.
are. It is usually a marginal religion that's getting persecuted, but still, like,
Yeah. Well, it's because, like, Christianity is, like, dominant, but, like, it's confusing because I think it depends on where in the world we're talking about what.
awesome. Yeah.
But I say that only to say that queer people are often marginalized in warfare, or disabled people, right? But it doesn't have anything to do with religion, but it's just the marginalization itself is attacked during times of war.
Yeah.
And you can see that happening in the US. Like, I think queer people are under attack right now as much as we
Women
are
have been under attack the last several years too. Like,
well, yes. And
sorry, I just was reminded the other day that they fucking shut down. I was like, oh right,
Yeah.
they took away Roe v. Wade. They don't give a fuck about us. Like,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it's I think what's the reality is that we're realizing what kind of fascist state we live in. Capitalist, colonized place. Well, did you have more to say? Because I wanted to hear you out in full.
Apparently I had a lot to say. No, I just like, it's stunting to hate. Like, it's stunting to hate that much. We kind of touch on it, like, with hatred and violence, like, being like anger being kind of a stagnant energy. You know, it's fucked up to have a government that doesn't give a fuck about you. Like, there's no way to be free if your government literally doesn't care about you. Like, you don't have the access to the paths that you need, or like the opportunities to, like, yeah.
And I think under the empire, under the imperialism that we see around the world, what person, honestly, unless you are literally Delulu and haven't unlearned and relearned, what person does really feel safe with their government right now? I can't answer that question because I don't live in anywhere but America, but like, to me it feels like under this like current circumstance, like, of imperialism, like, no one really is safe.
Yeah. Oh,
because
no.
There's so much rulership and conquest still.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's bred into us. That's why I keep being like, let's just burn the fucking Constitution down. Because, like, it was written for and by and for landowning Protestant white men. And that does real damage to the fucking psyche of our country, that like 70% of us aren't even fucking included in the original document. 70 plus, probably. Like,
it's probably like 98%.
It's probably like 90% of the fucking population just is not even fucking included. And like, they literally outright say in the document that black people only count as 3/5 of a person. It's like people with whole ass bodies don't even count as a whole ass person. And it shows in the identity body politics we're currently still arguing about whether or not, you know, people count as people. It's like, it's what the actual HE double hockey sticks, my friends. Yeah.
Well, I know it's so like, where do you even go with it? Where do you even? I have like a thing. So, but I have to like start someplace and then I'll get there. So just bear with me here.
I'm in for the ride. Let's go.
Okay, so we touched on the marginalizations, and I would say that, like, I want to fully acknowledge that, like, I live in a comfortable place in the US where I do not currently live through anything but, like, what capitalism and the US empire does to its own citizens. I also want to say that I'm vehemently against war, genocide, ecocide, etc. I also think that resistance is necessary in all forms, and there is power in collectivity. There is an immense need for massive change on a global scale. And that's just where I stand as a person, and that's like who I am. And I cannot be swayed from those positions. No matter who comes at me with what. I can unlearn and relearn, but those are pretty set in stone for me, I guess. I don't know. I just wanted to say that because I think it's important to know values when it comes to a time that feels tumultuous. I think at least having the integrity of the self is important, really. I don't want to prove anything to anybody else.
Yeah.
But I want to announce, like, that integrity is necessary and also healing for yourself. And like you said, that root chakra, integrity is kind of like a place to start.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm literally reading I just finished The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, and it's just like so amazing because like it's not necessarily integrity like moral like uprightness. It's integrity as in like the meaning of the word, which is wholeness. Like you are just operating wholly within your
I'm living
being.
that truth.
Yeah. Like you're basically the thing that I always say where it's the only thing that matters to me is if I can look myself in the eye at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like if I can look at myself in the fucking mirror, I don't give a fuck what anybody has to say.
Yeah. Well, and then just to continue on, like also I'm American and like there is like larger context happening at this time right now. I mean, it's been almost a year of the displacement of the current displacement and dispossession of the Palestinian people by the IOF, and this has been happening since the Nakba of 1948. Like there's history that can be erased that is currently going on amongst so many other places too that the US and other powers are trying to grab for land, resources, etc. But in my current context, like I live on Salish land. My ancestors are from Northern Europe. Like I have no claim of the American land here. But I don't want to erase its history. I have no doubt that we're living in current wartime. Like I think we are in a beginning stage of what people will talk about as like a build up to a wartime. If we do not nip it in the fucking bud. And what I mean by we is a select few in power. They're like, if the people in power are not going to listen to the people who are in majority saying this should not be happening, we should stop the funding of weapons and military aid to Israel, then we need to stop it. That's what will help. That's what we can do. But we are not being listened to. And I don't know how much better it will get in the future. I feel very uncertain. I feel like my root chakra's fucked up. Because what I do know is that like my settler family fucked up the land here, but also got fucked up because they had to move from where they were to come to a safer place. I just did air quotes. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of the journey I've been on, like, with my ancestors of just, like, understanding, like, you know, I do have a place, I do have people, I do have community. But wartime sort of puts you in this place of, like you said, your root chakra's so fucked up. But, like, the point is that we need to stabilize and steward the earth. Like, if we can just, as a society, focus less on whatever it is we need and focus more on what a collective and the earth needs, including all of its creatures, that will start to destabilize war and stabilize the earth. And I just see it as the 180 we need.
I have an excellent quote from this excellent book called Wisdom from a Humble Jellyfish by Ronnie Shaw, where she says, caring for the earth is self-care for us all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Care for the earth.
like all of this to really say, honestly, because I think this gets the point across a little bit, which is why I wanted to do all that in the beginning, is to talk about something called soul loss. Have you ever heard of a concept called soul loss?
Let's say no. I feel like I've like by osmosis, like I've like it, like it's been presented to me in things called something else, like.
So I was introduced to the concept of soul loss. There was a post made by the Slow Factory on Instagram that featured the concept in context of the depravity that we're watching on part of Israel, IOF soldiers, I guess. And I wanted to read the post verbatim, but I actually think that it would be better if you actually go look up the Slow Factory, follow them, find the post for yourself, and do all the things to get engagement on that part. But essentially what it means is, I think there's no medical way to fix soul loss, because soul loss is all parts of you. It's that wholeness that gets deconstructed into these places where you are no longer yourself, but you're for something like war or the depravity of just doing horrible things to another group of people based on the hate that you hold in your heart. But when I think about soul loss, this is why I feel so devoted to things like decolonization and liberation. And I don't care if I get it wrong sometimes, because my goal is still liberation. I fuck up because I'm not the perfect person. I fuck up because I'm not a historian or a smooth talking politician. But I am a person. I'm part of I'm part of the network of people who care about liberation, right?
Yeah.
And that is the work, the creators of change. That's what happens. Like, if people aren't listening to us, people in power aren't listening to us, what we need. I think it's brilliant that you brought up the root chakra, because it's reminding me of the mycelium network. Like, where your roots take place. The tree roots, the mycelium network, right?
Thank you for saying that, because it's been a long time since 7th grade bio.
Right. But that's like... I think that, like, there are things that we are going to need as a society to do more of to get liberation that are not traditional things. So, like, when I say we need resistance in all forms and all ways, including violent and non-violent, like, that means that there are going to be people who need... you just need to step into your role, figure out what needs to change. There are so many ways to rebel against systems of oppression and also align with your soul and your whole person. These things don't have to be separate, and they don't have to be like, oh, I'm doing this to save. No.
They shouldn't. Actually, they're going to be most effective when they're not separate, as Martha Beck will tell you. And because she uses a root system to like a branch system, she uses that imagery when she talks about once you get into full integrity, once you're actually operating within the wholeness of yourself and everything you do is in line with what you want and your values, you're bonkers happy, and like it inspires other people, and then it grows. Like, if 2 people fucking find out and start to change because of you, and then they tell 2 friends, and then they tell 2, like, it's like when you're actually operating within your wholeness of yourself, that emanates from you and affects the people in your community, and then that affects their communities, and then like, and she literally uses like roots and branches to fucking talk about it.
Yeah, I get my reference from Adrienne Marie Brown, who wrote Emergent Strategy, and it's about how to...
I need to read that.
It's good. I'm gonna butcher it, honestly, but when she explains the mycelium network, what she's really trying to explain is like the network of creators of change, and the fact that we are all so connected that, and I think she brings up a larger point later in the book about conflict, which is like, even when you feel there's in-group conflict, that is not enough conflict to take away from liberation itself.
Yeah.
So, like, there may be all this in-group fighting of, like, well, for example, let's take the next election, the election that's coming up. Okay, so, like, there's the Democratic nominee of Kamala Harris, and then there's also, like, these third party, Green Party, Socialist Party, Jill Stein, Claudia De La Cruz, like, these people who are running. I have been thinking a lot lately about how voting, and I'm not going to talk about who I'm voting for, because I have the integrity in the voting booth to vote for whoever I want to. That's my right as the citizen in this country. But if I also have to take into consideration that voting is not only a moral choice, it's a strategic choice. That there's more operating in your vote than just like, okay, I'm against genocide. Or like somebody recently on Instagram said something like, you know, I'm going to vote Kamala because it's the only way to defeat Donald Trump. And I think what's really hard for me is like, I don't want to exist in that dichotomy anymore so bad that it makes me want to vote something like Green Party.
Yeah, I was like, well, so
Party, right?
maybe we all just vote for Jill Stein. Like, and then
it's just, how can we live in this fantasy in which it actually like comes to be, when I think what's actually more likely to happen is that Kamala Harris will be voted in. And not to say that she wins my vote. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't, all I'm just trying to explain is that these things like voting, take your integrity to go do, because you cannot not do it and believe that anything will change just because you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but you're like, the more action you're putting into changing something, I think is what changes things.
Or we all don't do it. Like, the only way that we could force any change by not doing it is if we all fucking, like, but that would take so much organizing and fucking activism to get everybody to not vote. Like, because I've been wanting to do that so much
organizing. Yeah, and there's been so much organizing already that, like, we are not nearly on the right path. Well, we're on the path for change for sure, but I just feel like, in my personal perspective, there is not enough agreement amongst the, like, because of this infighting, right? There's not a level of agreement that's, like, satisfiable to all of us. Jill Stein is becoming very highly, I guess she's just, like, sort of becoming more publicly known as, like, the other option. I know that for a while Claudia de la Cruz was trying, but I really think Jill Stein is where it's at, because she's older, she has more. Yeah. And Claudia de la Cruz was going for the younger vote. She wasn't going for older people. She was going for young people. So I think she tried to build a movement to do, I don't know to do what. I didn't really understand that. I think to just sell socialism a little bit more, but at the same time, like, some of these concepts we're talking about besides, like, third party, and this all has to do with war, because this is literally what we're actually dealing with.
I mean, there's like 3 wars going on right now. Like, when you mentioned Ukraine, and I was talking to fucking Zoe, and we were trying to figure out if we were going to go to Greece. She's like, because both of us want to go back to Crete. She was like, is it too close to the war? And I was like, which one? Which one are you fucking talking about? Are you talking about the one in the Middle East or the one in Ukraine? She was like, I completely forgot about Ukraine. And I was like, also, before we get into the wartime stuff, the one thing I do have about conspiracy, are we in World War III or not, is that my grandpa's widow, who works in the Pentagon, she's visiting with my mom recently in the last, like, year, and she was like, I wonder if this is how people felt before World War II started.
It's no secret that we have been thinking about it, and I think what I don't want is to see something come into fruition because we say that we don't have enough power to stop it. Remember collectivity. Remember the mycelium network. Remember the work that you have to do yourself on an everyday local level. You can establish change. It may look like voting in a booth. It may look like organizing mutual aid for your community. It may look like organizing in a nonprofit for your community. You can do a lot of things. It might be the self-work you need to do to even enter those spaces.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's what I've been doing. A lot of work for me, and
I have entered these spaces in a myriad of ways. And there are a myriad of ways I can do it as, like, a queer disabled person. You know, there are only so many ways that I feel like, you know, the world opens up for me, but that doesn't mean I want to limit myself to thinking that liberation is not possible. Oh. And especially in this, like, technological age, like, there's just so much that has changed since World War II in this World War III day and age, besides the catastrophic amount of carnage that could possibly happen on the whole Earth as a whole, right? Because we're talking, we talked in World War II about nuclear, I guess, like, later, but, like, nuclear warfare has been a thing for a while. Yep. But right now we're at a heightened sensitivity to it. And I wouldn't say that's for nothing. People are heightened to the awareness of World War III and nuclear warfare. Because why? Because the Earth is telling us from its core what to do, which is change. Yeah. To become change. To act. To rebel. To do the retaliation. Whatever way you can do it.
Turn up the heat.
Turn down the heat. I'm just kidding. Global warming.
The Earth is warming up because we're a virus it's trying to get rid of. And so we need to turn up the heat on the virus that is our government, or the powers that be, or capitalism, or all of it, imperialism in general.
I just read this amazing piece by, I'm going to look up the name, that they were talking about being, instead of, you know, being the virus, being the immune system to the Earth, being the white blood cells of the Earth.
I love that.
It was beautiful. Let me get the name of the blog that posted it. Cosmic Anarchy by Isha Khan talks about how we are the Earth's immune system, which impacts our role in the revolution through an ecological lens, how big egos, narcissism, and individualism destroy movements, navigating interpersonal beef with integrity, like our lives depend on it. Because guess what it does? And then it it goes into some case studies about the Black Panther movements and how like certain things were state sponsored infiltration and some of it was ego driven, and how like unity and like I don't want to continue what's being said in the article as much as I just want to say that like the point is it takes all of us to do everything we can.
Yeah.
And that may mean in the future looks scary. Like it may mean the future is uncertain and it looks scary, but you're going to do what you need to do right now to gear up for it. We have
the water wars in our lifetime. Like it is, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be fucking scary, dude. Like,
and what do you want? I guess I want to ask people too. Like, what do you want? Would you rather the world be this scary, or would you rather work toward a place where people in the future get to a point where they can live along the earth with its creatures, with its nature?
Yeah.
In a different reality that maybe we can't picture right now. I really hope that artists and visionaries like get their heads in the right spot for us all, and that policymakers start doing the work. I'm
like, dude, we can't. It should be illegal to build buildings without gray water systems and solar paneling. Like, I'm sorry, that should just be fucking illegal. Like, it is unacceptable the way that we build things. And fucking skyscrapers or blah, 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 blah. And then no fucking in the UK, they at least make a certain percentage of the housing, like, set aside for affordable income. Like, I mean, like, a set aside affordable housing for, like, low-income families and stuff like that. We don't fucking do that here. It's like 15% of new developments or something. Like, all developments, 50% of it has to be for low-income people.
Yeah.
Like, it's criminal.
Yeah. And that's why we're in a time of war, because the earth is seeing how unfair, and our bodies are seeing how unfair the world has been for a long time, and how we need to be, we have needed to, and we still need to continue at a rapid rate changing these things into a better future, into a more sustainable, ecologically, heart-driven, care-driven place. That being said, I do have a recommendation for the end of our episode to sort of get on the right track with all this.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so it's a spell for clarity. It's a magical spell for clarity, because what you're going to want to do is like really get clear with your thoughts, really get clear with who you are, who you want to be, your integrity, and sort through a lot of the thoughts, a lot of the gaggle that's like going on. I mean, you can tell in our episode, like, you know, the last hour that we've been talking, that like there is a lot to think about, right? And you will need clarity to set yourself up for this rebellion.
Yeah, focus and prioritize. And like, again, like if you're doing the thing that you're like, this calls to me, it really calls to me to get people to stop drinking like that. I like really need to figure out a way to get more involved in like the sober community and like get more people to be like, it's a neurotoxin and addictive substance. And like, the more that I do that, like people find me inspiring. Like I've been told that I'm inspiring and I'm like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Like, I don't need drugs to have fun. And I'm sick to death of being addicted to substances.
I think
that's all it is.
I feel a lot more in the camp of like spiritual wellness, but I also think that sometimes I feel really like the value is not seen yet. The value is not there. As much as I can talk about the spell, I can't ensure that people will do it or ensure that people will value the same things I value and want to see clearer. What I can do is offer it to people, and I hope that inspires people. I mean, people tell me all the time that they love my tarot readings, but like, this isn't tarot, this is real life. Tarot will show you real life. Tarot will show you in the cards like what's gonna happen, but if that's what you want. Anyways, so this spell for clarity, the materials you need, I tried to make it really simple. The materials you'll need is a clear crystal quartz crystal, a bowl or a glass full of water, and a place outside or near your window to charge your spell. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up your magical working however you usually do this. So you're going to like begin with a meditation or begin with your circle, however you can set up your spell working, do that as you usually do. And then you're going to sit in a meditation that is meant to clear your mind. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold the stone in your palm and you're going to focus on it. You're going to focus on how it feels, how heavy it is. You're going to focus on what it looks like, if that's what you need to do to visually focus on the stone. Do whatever you can to keep your mind focused on the stone itself, and let your thoughts pass through the stone as you're observing it. So when you have a thought, pass it through the stone. Keep passing your thoughts through the stone over and over again. Sit with this like this for however long you feel like you need to do. Let your thoughts fill the crystal with the jumbled workings of your mind. Then you're going to place the crystal in the bowl of water or the glass of water to charge for the next full moon. So you do the spell around then. Don't do it like now after the episode. Do it around the full moon to access the full power. Leave the crystal in the water for the day and the night of the full moon. Let the water wash away any unnecessary thought patterns and clear up issues you're having. Let the moon illuminate the thoughts you should be having and the thoughts that need to stick with you. Let the water and the crystal clear away anything that isn't wanted. Purify. The full moon and your spell will have done what's intended. And when you're done, what you're going to do is you're going to take a shower or a bath, and with the water, so like the next day, so the water's like not icky and old.
Yeah.
Take the shower and rinse your head with the water that the crystal was sitting in. Just pour the water over your hair, pour the water, and then just take your shower. And remind yourself of the intention that you want to see and think without obstruction, without delusion, without false information. And if you're used to doing spell work, one of the best things you can always do is just like keep a journal of your workings so you can see what's actually happening, when you can see the shifts and change, reflect on the clarity over time, see how it actually works for you. But that is the spell.
No, it's great. I like that it's a longer one. So, like, I like the ones where you charge something, you have to come back to it because it keeps it in your mind for longer. It keeps it reflect, like it keeps it present, and you're thinking about it. Because, like, even if it isn't, like, I fully think that magic is real. Like, I'm on board. I'm here for it. Obviously, we're both here for it. But even like, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit and be like, so even if it's not, even if you're one of the people that says it's not real, it's still making you like, it's still bringing those things to the front of your mind. And then you're like actually paying more attention to your thoughts. You're like, this isn't constructive. This is not useful. This is not what I want. It forces you to really examine and focus your energies at the very least, even if you don't believe it will work, which I'm like, if you focus, it will work. Mm-hmm. I've done money spells before. It works. Like, shit works. I draw my tarot cards. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've drawn my tarot cards and fucking laughed hysterically because I was like, oh, this all checks out for how I'm feeling this morning. Like, oh, this all makes perfect sense for what I'm dealing with right now in my life. Like,
yeah, I mean, even if you say it's confirmation bias, what I will say back to you is, in the context of our entire episode, these are the things that you're going to want to do to enact change. If you can start with this spell, you can continue, and you can continue to act. You can continue to do something. There are real world things you can do, boots on the ground situations, but first get clear with yourself about your values, who you are, and how you want to show up in a space. Yeah. Let your mind clear from all of the confusion, all of the delusion, all of the things that, the information that we're fed on a daily basis. Who are you and what do you stand for? Is that anti-war? Good. Keep moving.
Yeah. I love that. So, I spoke about that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Files from the Other Side. You can find us on Instagram. I'm at Schuyler's_schematonics, and Katie is at @legendary_hitchhiker. Share this podcast if you like it. Follow us on Instagram, and
we'll see you on the other side.